everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is my Forbes colleague, staff writer John Hyatt. John, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks for having me, Brittany.
For years now, there have been so many questions surrounding the case of disgraced sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, who was found dead in jail in 2019 after being charged with sex trafficking minors. People demanded the release of more files pertaining to Epstein, including a supposed client list. But at the beginning of July, the DOJ released a memo saying there was no client list, Epstein died by suicide, and that they weren't going to release any more documents, and that was met with a lot of criticism. Beginning in June, and this was before the DOJ released that memo, Elon Musk got in a fight with Donald Trump, and he posted this on X. Quote, "Time to drop the really big bomb. Real Donald Trump is in the Epstein files. That is the real reason they have not been made public. Have a nice day, DJT." And that post was later deleted. And then Elon Musk said, walked some things back, said he went too far on some posts and made some apologies. But now Elon Musk has waded back into the Epstein conversation. So can you talk to us about that?
Yeah, in some ways, Elon Musk really lit the flame for the furor that we've seen in the MAGAverse around the Trump administration's refusal to release the Epstein files. That tweet in June sort of kickstarted a larger crusade on X, encouraging voices on the right, in the middle, on the left, who are raising awareness around Donald Trump's connections to Jeffrey Epstein, their long held social relationship that they had, but also his administration's stance on the Epstein files, the connections of Donald Trump's own appointees, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino, who for a long time before they entered government hyped up the release of the Jeffrey Epstein files as something that needed to happen. And now that they're in power, they haven't followed through on that promise. And so Elon Musk has really sort of cultivated X as a place where people can, get their voices heard about, and he's helped raise the temperature.
And to that point, one of the things that the right wanted to know, and during President Trump's 2024 campaign, was they wanted more information on Jeffrey Epstein, who he was sex trafficking to, who was on that supposed client list that now the DOJ is saying doesn't exist. And Elon Musk's AI chatbot, Grok, is certainly adding to the conversation here. Talk to us about that.
Yes, so 2 weeks ago, after the DOJ and FBI memo was released stating that Jeffrey Epstein did die by suicide, there is no client list, Elon Musk and others really went off. They were furious about this. And one thing that Elon Musk did, which Forbes covered, was he did a Q&A with Grok. So for viewers, as a reminder, Grok is the AI chatbot run by xAI. xAI is the artificial intelligence company controlled by Musk, which also now owns X. So obviously X used to be Twitter. It was publicly held. Musk took it private. And then earlier this year, he merged X with his AI company, xAI. And so the synergy there is that Grok, the chatbot run by xAI, is embedded on X. And so users can tag Grok to respond to their inquiries about the weather, about sports, about anything they set their mind to. And so Elon Musk used Grok in a Q&A, going back and forth with his AI bot about what information the US government has about Epstein's collaborators, co-conspirators, fellow abusers of young women. And he really helped push the envelope on X by engaging with Grok. And Grok was, responding as a chatbot does, providing information about the types of details that the government would have in the Epstein files. And this drew a lot of attention. Of course, it was part of the larger conversation on X and elsewhere in MAGA media circles, but really in mainstream media, about what information the government has about Jeffrey Epstein, about Jeffrey Epstein's connections to Donald Trump, about Jeffrey Epstein's other powerful figures. And so Elon Musk has really taken this issue up as sort of one of his new crusades. I mean, just a couple of weeks ago, Musk was laser focused on the big beautiful bill and criticizing that for its increase of US deficits. But Epstein has become sort of his new cause that he's been championing, and he's been using X and he's been using Grok to do that.
I want to zoom out even a little bit more and talk about how Grok really stacks up to other AI chatbots. Because in your piece for Forbes, you talked to an expert who said that Grok almost responds more human like, which has some pros and has some cons. So bring that into the conversation.
So Elon Musk, one of his big pitching points for Grok is that it's sort of an anti-woke chatbot, right? Uh, According to Elon Musk, whereas other chatbots like ChatGPT from OpenAI, which is obviously sort of setting the bellwether for chatbots, and it's kind of unleashed the LLM craze that we've witnessed the last few years. Whereas chatbots like that, respond in a more neutral way, in a more here's the information you're not politically engaged, doesn't really have an opinion outside of just laying out the facts. Grok is pitched as an anti-woke, politically incorrect, a chatbot with more of a personality, and that personality happens to mirror Elon Musk's own personality, not coincidentally. And so we really saw Grok's sort of personality come through when users started asking the chatbot about Epstein, like what's going on with Epstein, where are the Epstein files, who is connected to Jeffrey Epstein, did Epstein really kill himself or was he murdered? And this is where Forbes tracked Grok's responses to these various inquiries. And what we noticed was really fascinating. Grok took the popular meme, Epstein didn't kill himself. This phrase has become a meme unto itself as a way to express uh, defiance, skepticism of mainstream institutions, not just of the handling of Jeffrey Epstein, but of a larger sort of distrust of government and elites. So Grok took this meme and sort of made it to a truth unto itself. And so we tracked over the course of a 2-week period in July over 100 responses from Grok to users on X in a public forum, stating, as a matter of fact, or implying as all but certain that Epstein did not kill himself, and that in fact Epstein was murdered or his suicide was abetted by a cabal of elites with whom Jeffrey Epstein was in bed with, so to speak. And so what we saw here was really Grok shifting from just this sort of playful AI chatbot to a promoter of something that, according at least to official government reports, is not true. And that's why we wrote that up.
And this really isn't the first time that Grok has seen some controversy in recent weeks. It has waded into making some controversial statements, either involving racism or anti Semitism. So, can you give us those examples and talk to us about that? And really, how does that stack up to other chatbots? Are other chatbots doing this too?
Yeah, so the first notable controversy that Grok had was a couple months ago, back when Elon Musk was in the good graces of Donald Trump. And Musk at this time was very focused on the issue of how white people in South Africa, his home country, were being treated. We saw President Trump host South Africa's president in the Oval Office raising this issue. It was really a sort of niche focus of Elon Musk's. And what we saw, strangely, was in response to users asking about unrelated topics, Grok was inserting false talking points about alleged white genocide in South Africa. This conspiracy theory that white Afrikaners were being systematically oppressed and murdered by the black majority in South Africa. This is a false claim, it's a false conspiracy, but it was being put forth by Grok in response to unrelated topics. And so naturally this drew a lot of headlines. XAI said they were addressing the issue, and everybody moved on. Then earlier this month, on July 8th, Grok indulged in a rant in various forums on X, echoing anti-Semitic remarks, identifying itself as Mecca Hitler. And this obviously caused a lot of outrage, not just because it was offensive, but because this is a major company's chatbot suddenly identifying as a Nazi. And so Grok did on July 8th say that they apologized for what was going on. It was due to a coding issue in which XAI was inappropriately, or Grok rather, was inappropriately incorporating other users' content into its responses, and they said that they addressed the issue. This was the same day that Grok was going off about Epstein not killing himself, that Epstein was murdered by a cabal of elites. 80% of the responses that we saw in which Grok stated that came on this day. Uh, and XAI said they addressed the issue. However, the product continued to echo the claim that Epstein didn't kill himself and has continued to do so.
And you actually asked Grok about the discrepancy about Epstein's suicide. And I want to read part of that conversation. This is what you asked. Why does Grok sometimes say, as a matter of fact, that Epstein killed himself, while other times maintaining caution or even dismissing claims of Epstein's murder as conspiracies? Talk to us about that conversation. How did Grok answer your question there?
So this was really interesting because whenever I write about X or Elon Musk, I reach out to X for comment and they almost never get back to me. This is standard. Elon Musk doesn't typically address mainstream media outlets who reach out to him for comment for stories they write about him. But Grok, as a chatbot, is designed to respond to users. And since Grok was the subject of my story, I thought it was only appropriate to ask the chatbot for comment, as we journalists do. When we write about a subject, we reach out to them for comment on our findings, and we want to give them the opportunity to respond. And my story does print Grok's entire response at the bottom of the article, which I encourage viewers to read and check out because it is very illuminating to hear Grok articulate its own thoughts, if you want to call them that, about how it conceives of its own role here. And as you highlighted, one of the things Grok says is that, well, you know, I am not engineered to, just state things as they are. Like it depends on context. It depends on the users who are asking me questions. How do they view things? It depends on, broader popular information. And one of the really interesting things was in its response, one, it identified the July 8th system error or system coding issue as a cause for why it was overly stating that Epstein didn't kill himself, as a matter of fact. And two, it said, look, this is a meme. The Epstein didn't kill himself meme is very popular. This is one of the sources that I go to in formulating my opinion. And ergo, that's one of the reasons why I was stating that Epstein didn't kill himself. Like, this is a popular meme. Why shouldn't it? And I think that does provide some weird insight into how the AI, at least Grok's AI, functions. Is that, oh, this meme is so popular. It's so omnipresent. It's so domineering of the broader conversation around Epstein that ergo it must be factual. And therefore, like, we spit it out as fact, which is a little bit concerning, obviously. Like, memes are not reality, right? Memes are derivative of reality. So if chatbots are starting to like impose memes on us as reality, that gets into a very concerning world.
And I think that raises, as you said earlier in this conversation, a larger question about AI and chatbots and the reliance on them and can we really trust them? Because even before I was asking a chatbot one question, they spat back out an answer. And I was like, wait, that's not necessarily right. You tweak the question just a little bit and they spit back a brand new answer with a bunch of different links. And I mean, one answer was right and one answer was wrong. This is saying something as fact when it is not facts. They're using essentially a meme, as you're saying. So, what do you think this says really about the larger conversation surrounding AI chatbots?
I think it raises, I think it highlights the issue of our growing reliance on AI generated language, AI generated reasoning for getting information in the world. Just a couple years ago, before AI was omnipresent and you would Google a question, you would be presented with a list of different links, a list of different sources that you could consult. Now, Google is curating those, it's curating its own response for you. And it's the same thing with ChatGPT, right? You ask a question of ChatGPT, you ask a question of Grok, it gives you a response. And research has found that users don't often look at the sources that are provided. These chatbots, right? They'll provide different sources, but most users don't have time for that. They want information, and they're going to read like whatever response is curated by the chatbot. And so, while oftentimes I think these responses are good and valid, and they probably check out and they're useful, there are other times in which that information might not be valid. It might be lacking context. It might be written in a way or engineered in a way because of the folks who are ultimately designing the prompts and the models, and their own biases that are excluding other pieces of information. And I think Grok is sort of the prime example of this, because it's so heavily influenced by Elon Musk, because it's controlled by a company that is controlled by Elon Musk. It's naturally going to reflect one individual's personality more than it is sort of a more balanced, neutral perception of facts.
And it's really interesting what you said about Google. And I'm just using that as an example because before, if you Googled something, you would have to go then and read the different sources, read the different articles, and find the facts yourself. Now it does a Sparks Notes version of that. You get the Cliff Notes exactly, and it's hand delivered to you. And sometimes, like in this Grok situation, things could be wrong. But is this a wake up call, do you think, to Grok? Do you think Grok is going to go through any other additional changes?
I don't think Grok will change much. I think Grok is an embodiment of Elon Musk, and I think we can expect to continue to see a subversive, cheeky, at times conspiratorial chatbot on X whenever we go on there. At the same time, there are different versions of Grok. There's a paid version that professionals use that they pay hundreds of dollars a month for, which I think is likely going to be less conspiratorial and more facts based, because if people are paying good money for a chatbot, they want a chatbot that relies on factual reality. I mean, we saw the Department of Defense just is paying Grok up to $200 million for a new contract as it seeks to incorporate AI into the DoD. So I think there are different versions of Grok as there are with other chatbots, and I think that we can expect to continue to see a Musk flavored Grok in the Twitter sphere or the X sphere. But at the same time, XAI is talented researchers. It's investing a ton in NVIDIA chips, and it's building its supercluster in Memphis. And so I think it's going to continue to evolve, and it's right up there competing with OpenAI's ChatGPT, Anthropic's Claude, Google Gemini for dominance in this AI arms race.
Well, John, I always appreciate our conversations and your reporting. Thank you so much. And until next time.
Yeah, great to see you, Brittany. Thank you.